Inside Track is brought to you in association with Mobil 1 and Champion Spark Plugs.
Ayrton Senna back to form with a win in Hungary. We look at the marvels of modern engine technology. Pay tribute to Soichiro Honda, one of the biggest names in the history of car manufacturing. And we join in Nigel Mansell's 38th birthday celebrations. That's all coming up on the official story of the FIA Formula One World Championship. Inside Track. This is Budapest. Not one city, but two really. Divided by the River Danube are Buda on one side and Pest on the other. It's always been considered the most cosmopolitan of Eastern European cities, and it's easy to see why. Budapest is certainly one of the great capitals of Europe. But less than a week before the Hungarian Grand Prix, the Danube flooded, and scenes like this became a talking point as the Formula One fraternity began to arrive for the race weekend. For Nigel Mansell, Thursday, the 8th of August, marked his 38th birthday, an occasion he celebrated with his mechanics.
Do you feel older or do you feel better? 21. What did you ask for a birthday present? A horse, and I'm getting that tonight.
On behalf of the Hungarian sport-loving people, szeretjük azt, hogy mindig sportszerűen versenyzel. We just love the way you race. Szeretjük azt, hogy imádod a családodat. We love the way you love your family. Szeretjük azt, hogy igazán jól képviseled az angol nemzeti színeket is. And the way you look after Britain and British flag, the British interests, and the way you are just a true Brit.
Kívánjuk azt, hogy ez a futóerő
and we hope that this extra horsepower is going to help you win on Sunday.
Happy birthday to you.
And happy birthday to you too.
Énekeljük együtt a happy birthday-t, tudjuk.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Nigel. Happy birthday to you.
Very happy birthday for you. Thank you very much. I'll ride to the circuit tomorrow.
Mansell in great spirits, and justifiably so. After 3 successive victories, he was edging ever closer to Ayrton Senna in the World Drivers' Championship. Quite a turnaround from the start of the season. Race 1, Phoenix, a familiar scene. Ayrton Senna on pole, the 2 Williams Renaults of Patrese and Mansell showing promise. Then Patrese disappeared down an escape road. Mansell's race soon ended. Patrese back only to run into a wall, and Moreno ran into him. In the end, Senna led from start to finish. McLaren Honda picked up where they left off the previous year, in championship winning form. Senna first earning 10 points. Alan Prost in the Ferrari second. Nelson Piquet third in the Benetton Ford. Round 2, once again, Senna on pole, this time in his native Brazil. Mansell challenged the world champion for much of the race, but problems with a new semi-automatic gearbox forced him to retire. So Senna won again, with only 1 gear late on. Ron Dennis thanked his good fortune. Senna enjoyed the spoils of victory. His second consecutive win gave him an 11-point lead over his nearest rival Prost. Patrese second place in Brazil moved him up to third with 6 points. Round 3 at Imola. Prost out before the race proper began. Then Mansell stuck in neutral as teammate Patrese, powered by Senna, to take an early lead. Ferrari's woes continued. Jean Lacey making an early exit. Nigel Mansell frustrated by his continuing gearbox problems. Familiar story at the finish. Senna winning, thereby extending his lead to 20 points in the driver's standings. Gerhard Berger's second place put him up to 2nd overall. JJ Lehto's 3rd, enough to see him jump to 6th overall. Monaco, round 4, and a 4th consecutive pole position for Senna. The fabled street circuit, an adventure for Roberto Moreno. Nigel Mansell and Williams get it right. A daring manoeuvre past Prost, the first points of the season for the Englishman, but Senna victorious again. His lead in the driver's standings, 29 points over Prost, 30 over Berger, and at this stage of the season, Nigel Mansell 34 points adrift. Round 5, back to North America, Montreal for the Canadian Grand Prix. A very hot day, even hotter for Aguri Suzuki. Senna's string of wins ended with electrical failure. Alain Prost and Ferrari didn't fare much better. The winner, Nelson Piquet, who passed the stationary leader Nigel Mansell on the very last lap. Unexpected victory for Piquet, devastating loss for Mansell after he'd led the whole way. Senna a comfortable lead in the driver's standings, Mansell out of the top 6 at this stage. By the time the show reached Mexico for round 6, the Williams camp was confident they'd sorted out their problems. Mansell especially sharp as he overtook Patrese, and then Senna at the end of the long straight. But in the end, it was Patrese who finished first, and Mansell the runner-up, Senna in 3rd place. Suddenly, in the time of one Grand Prix, it appeared the whole championship had turned around. Senna, a 24-point lead, but McLaren outpowered by Williams. For the French Grand Prix, Ferrari unveiled a new car, and Prost took the early lead. The rest of the race saw Mansell challenging for first place, the lead changing hands again with the obligatory tyre stop, Mansell responding to the utter dismay of the new Ferrari team manager, Claudio Lombardi. Mansell winning his first Grand Prix of the season, Prost 2nd, Senna 3rd, Mansell 2nd overall in the Drivers' Championship, Patrese 3rd. Senna still had the lead, but with 10 points for a win, the title still in the balance. At Silverstone a week later, round 8, the midway point of the season, Patrese tangling with Berger on the first lap and retired. Lacey encountered the LaRousse of Suzuki. He too made a premature exit. But there was never any doubt as to the winner. Mansell cruised to victory, his 2nd in a row, and the most rewarding of his career. Senna retired on the last lap, but still claimed 4th. That left Mansell 18 points behind, heading for the German Grand Prix. Mansell on pole position in a car that was unquestionably the class of the field. And while the Williams pulled away from the pack, Senna and Prost did battle, the Frenchman finding himself out of the race after this skirmish. Senna had his problems too, out of fuel for the 2nd race in a row, allowing Mansell to gain more ground with his victory. 8 points now between Senna and Mansell. The season had turned around dramatically since March. But Prost was still 30 points off the lead, Ferrari eclipsed by McLaren and Williams. Hungary, round 10, would probably be won or lost at the first corner. The circuit design makes it very difficult to overtake. Whoever gained pole would have a crucial advantage. Here's a look at the difficulties the drivers face on this tight, dusty, bumpy Hungary track. Ayrton Senna in the cockpit. Coming down from 150 to less than 100 miles an hour for this right-hander that banks right back on itself at the back of the pits, accelerating away, finding 5th gear before he has to sweep round to the left. An illustration of just how tight these corners are, and very narrow too. Very, very few places to overtake if the driver in front doesn't want you to. Senna using all the track. Having won here twice before, he knows every inch of it. Gear lever on the right. After 77 laps of Hungary, his right hand will be blistered and hurt. Very short straights punctuated by rights and lefts. The driver having to work very hard in the intense heat of Eastern Europe. Again, no sooner has he found 5th than he's down through the box for that right and left and right again. The next chance where he would get into top gear would be in front of the pits after this steep right-hander, which climbs back in front of the main part of the crowd away on the left. Over start and finish line at about 150 miles an hour. Senna, for the most part, using the normal 6-speed transmission in Hungary. McLaren did use the occasion to do some testing of their long-awaited semi-automatic gearbox. In fact, there had already been extensive testing done on the system, but the gearbox was put in a T-car to check it out under race conditions. Ayrton Senna doing a few laps in Friday's practice. However, no indication was given as to when the box will actually be ready for a full race. McLaren and Honda personnel donned black armbands in Hungary as an expression of sympathy and respect for the late Soichiro Honda, the founder of the company that bore his name. An auto mechanic by trade, by 1949 he designed and developed his first prototype motorcycle, a 98cc two-stroke engine with 3 horsepower. By 1960, Honda opened the largest motorcycle factory in the world. The export market opened up, and the Honda motorcycle earned an international reputation. Expanding into car manufacture, the Honda name became prominent on Formula One cars in the 1970s. Soichiro Honda was a great fan of Formula One. Even though he retired on the company's 25th anniversary in 1973, Mr. Honda maintained an active life and travelled to many Grand Prix races. He died last week at the age of 85. But he'll be fondly remembered by his friends and business colleagues alike.
I learnt from him what it's like to be able to keep your motivation until you're 80-odd years old. And fortunately, I'm only 44, so I've got a while to go. But he's an inspiration to everybody in Formula One.
Still to come on Inside Track, a look back at the great moments of previous Hungarian Grand Prix. Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost call an official end to their long-standing feud. We'll follow the Brabham team as they aim for their first points of the season. That's all to come on Inside Track, here on Screen Sport. The return of an old boy at the Hungarian Grand Prix. Former Tyrrell technical director Harvey Postlethwaite took time off from his new job at Mercedes to say hello to old friends. Gerard Ducarouge, one of Formula One's most senior designers, left La Rousse to rejoin Ligier. There's huge anticipation in the Ligier camp, with Renault engines due next season, and the appointment of Ducarouge confirming team principal Guy Ligier's desire to upgrade his team to the true competitive level. The arrival of the highly rated Ducarouge and the success of Renault's engine development could make it all possible. It was Ducarouge who had worked with Renault's chief racing engineer Bernard Dudot when the French car manufacturer set out to design a normally aspirated engine. Renault had looked at 3 projects in the post-turbo era that ended in 1986, a V8, a V10 and a V12, designs based on different angle, length, range of power and fuel consumption. It was then that Renault decided to go with the V10. Major competitors like Honda and Ferrari eventually chose the V12. Ford stayed with the V8. With engine and chassis design being so totally integrated, the Williams team's success this year is due in no small part to their ability to work closely with their Renault colleagues.
Really, I worked some years ago a lot with some other English team and some French team, but really I've found the best collaboration, technical collaboration with Williams.
An expression often used in describing race engines is good drivability. In other words, to help the driver concentrate on the balance and setup of the car without being preoccupied with the engine. All the while, checks are made on engine wear using the most sophisticated methods possible. After every practice run, for instance, oil samples are taken from the car and then burned in this special machine. Technicians can tell by the color of the flame exactly what metal residues are in the used oil. From this information, it's determined which parts are deteriorating and which aren't, helping the mechanics to make the necessary adjustments. Then there's the telemetry. Small computer sensors in the car receive the information defining the car's parameters. Radio signals are sent from the pits to the car, asking the onboard sensor for details, which it then responds to in turn. Computers in the pit translate all the data onto printers, from which the engineers can decipher everything from temperature to gear changes to RPMs, right down to the position of the driver's foot on the accelerator. So, can the technology differentiate the driving styles of teammates Riccardo Patrese and Nigel Mansell?
It's surprising bit, because if you superpose all the data of each driver, you find that it is very close. Same means to accelerate, same mean to change the gear. We have some detail somewhere. Where are the difference? It's normal. But generally, the means to drive the car for both drivers are very, very similar.
The bottom line, of course, is that engine developments made in Formula One eventually filter down to the cars we drive every day. Honda, for instance, use Formula One as a training ground for their top engineers. It's all part of the reason why Formula One is a focal point for most major car, engine and fuel manufacturers' development plans. Here in Hungary, engines are just part of the attraction on race weekend. Since its inception in 1986, the Hungarian Grand Prix has provided some exciting moments. The first year of the Hungarian Grand Prix saw a fierce battle between Ayrton Senna in the Lotus Renault and Nelson Piquet in the Williams Honda. Piquet passes Senna after braking late, but just can't hold it. Senna kept the lead. One lap later, Piquet tackled Senna again, this time on the outside. He managed to control his car and with a very determined piece of driving skill, takes the lead. Two Brazilians on the podium, with Nigel Mansell in third place. The following year, Mansell was on pole position in his Williams Honda and made a great start, only for his right rear suspension to fail in the latter part of the race. So, for the second year in succession, Nelson Piquet was victorious, Ayrton Senna second, and Alain Prost third. In 1988, Senna moved to McLaren alongside Alain Prost and together demonstrated there were definitely no team orders. Prost took Senna on the inside, only to have the Brazilian return the compliment. And that was the story of the race. Senna won it, Prost second, Thierry Boutsen in a Benetton third. 1 year on, Derek Warwick coming out of the pits in his Arrows Ford, Satoru Nakajima flashing by, a little too close as it turned out. Again, the very narrow Hungara ring took its toll. Another view of the incident from the onboard camera. The other story in this race, the determination of Nigel Mansell to overtake Ayrton Senna and win the race in his Ferrari. Certainly one of Mansell's most memorable wins, his hard-charging style endearing him to race fans all over the world. Last year, one of the main talking points of the Hungarian Grand Prix was this overtaking manoeuvre by Senna on Mansell. Senna leaving his braking until the last possible moment before sneaking by into second place. Later in the race, Senna put Alessandro Nannini's Benetton into orbit. After that, Berger in the McLaren did virtually the same thing to Mansell. An eventful race. Thierry Boutsen took the checkered flag in his Williams Renault, a satisfying moment for everyone in the Williams crew. Boutsen the winner, Senna second, Nelson Piquet in the Benetton third. And when we return, a look at how this year's race weekend developed from pre-qualifying on Friday right through to the fascinating fight for pole position on Saturday. It's all coming up right here on Inside Track on Screen Sport. Hungary, Friday morning. Brabham drivers Mark Blundell and Martin Brundle have 1 hour to ensure their cars pre-qualify to join the rest of the field in official practice. Both are among the most talented drivers in Formula One. The Yamaha engine and Sergio Rinland designed chassis becomes better and more reliable with each race. Yet surprisingly, the team has not scored a point this season. Another famous name in pre-qualifying, Michele Alboreto in the footwork, scraping through in 4th place. Olivier Grouillard in the Sol Fomet made it through as well. But the Brabhams, as expected, dominated the session. Though strangely, the experienced Brundle was 1.5 seconds slower than Blundell. Mark Blundell delighted with his performance on his Hungarian debut.
It's gone very well for us. Brabham Yamaha looks like it's going to suit this circuit.
Various incidents during first practice. Eric van der Poel in the Modena at the first turn, spinning on the marbles. Nigel Mansell doing well to avoid him, but playing it by the book, aiming for the spinning car and knowing that eventually he'd find a line through. Thierry Boutsen, the winner last year, had his moments as well. A spin at this right and left-hander, but it was caused by Olivier Grouillard, punting him in the rear wheels. Grouillard complaining of a lack of grip. Patrese into the barriers. A right front brake failed. It was impossible to correct. The problem for Patrese, Mansell has the spare. The battered car was brought back to the Williams garage. Patrese tried to put it all into perspective.
When the car slowed down completely, he had still some inertia, and he went poof, with the nose against the inside barrier because he was on the track like this.
Williams were not confident of going well in Hungary despite their win last year, but Patrese recovered well after Friday morning. The car still oversteering in 6th place. Mansell, struggling to find a decent setup, claimed 5th fastest on the provisional grid.
No, we've had a bit of a disjointed day. Unfortunately, Ricardo had a problem with his brakes this morning, and the front of the car hit the barrier reasonably hard. That basically meant that I had to choose between my race car and my T car, and I let him use my race car for a few laps this morning, but it just meant that it limited the amount of work that we could do. We just haven't got the car up to speed. It's a totally different setup for here, and McLaren's right on the pace, as I said that they probably would be. And, well, I said that, you know, it does cover up a lot of problems. We put downforce on our car and gone slower, so we're going to have a big post-mortem today, and for sure we'll make improvements for tomorrow.
Claiming 4th place on the provisional grid, Jean Alesi, the first time in a Ferrari at Hungary. 3rd place, Alain Prost. 6th visit to Hungary, 2nd time in a Ferrari. Ferrari optimistic overall, but still wary of McLaren. With good cause. Senna in 2nd place. In the very hot conditions, though, he found his qualifying tyres going off before the end of the full flying lap. Gerhard Berger preserved his tyres well and claimed provisional pole, though outside last year's record set by Thierry Boutsen. A rare, bright moment for Berger in a disappointing year. His future at McLaren is clouded. He's been completely overshadowed by Ayrton Senna. Hungary marked a turning point.
It's difficult because people start so quick to say, oh, it's slower than it was or whatever. I mean, if you analyze my season, then you find just a big technical problem, or a lot of races with technical problem, and I couldn't change it all. So the last races I did 2 good races. I was fighting, I was having results, and today is just another day where it shows that it's okay.
Brabham's qualifying session was extremely positive, with Martin Brundle 10th quickest, Mark Blundell 9th. With Saturday's session certain to be even faster with the extra rubber on the surface, the team aimed for both drivers in the top 10. Later that afternoon, rumours began to circulate in the paddock. A huge crowd gathered outside the Elf motorhome. FISA had called together Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna to discipline both drivers for their conduct in the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim. Prost's comments after the race had caused concern.
If I find him again the same way, if he's correct the same way, I push him out. That's for sure, because I can't also accept that the FISA, I mean, they put $10,000 fine to Gugelmin or Suzuki, Manico and Silverstone, and they never do anything for for top drivers, and if you have a rule, it must be the same for everybody.
By the time both drivers emerged after 2 hours, it was made clear the feud was over.
For the benefit of both of us and everybody, and also of the sport, we should try to find a better way of competing and working in the same environment that we do for the benefit of everybody, and we agree that. Okay? Shake.
La mano, la mano!
Hello? Thank you.
Prost had a one-race suspended ban imposed on him for his comments, but the most important factor was that the drivers could now return to the business at hand, winning races. Saturday morning, blisteringly hot, 32 degrees centigrade and dusty as well. McLaren produced a new blend of Shell fuel for qualifying, too potent indeed for Gerhard Berger. The provisional pole sitter in trouble, and as the marshals struggled to get him out of the way, one of their number found life difficult too. Meanwhile, Mark Blundell had another excellent practice, and he was confident going into the official qualifying session.
The lap came together very well. If I can do a lap like that this afternoon, I'll be very pleased. Everything's running to plan at the moment. We've also been doing a lot of full tank work, and the balance is reasonable on the car, so we're very happy.
Playing the waiting game, Mansell happier with his setup. Senna confident he could beat anybody else's time. As for Prost, the chassis was okay, the throttle response questionable. He had been in the V12 with the variable intake, a new development, but he reverted to the usual model and set a brilliant 1:17.690. The initial mark set for the rest. Mansell was the first to challenge and came second quickest, 1:18.230. Spectacular, but not spectacular enough. But how about this? Mark Blundell on fire at turn 2. Unlucky because it was his race car on qualifiers. Hopes of a good run up in smoke. Ayrton Senna, as so often before, taking great pride in the fact that he feels he can go quicker than anyone else in the field. He gave it everything. Mansell could only watch. Patrese recovered well from his Friday mishap and claimed a place on the front row against all the odds.
I'm very happy because I had a few problems during these 2 days, engine problem, brakes problem yesterday. So I didn't have really smooth practice yesterday and today. And to be in first row, I think I can be very pleased. And I have to admit that also if I had fantastic practice yesterday and today, I don't think we could match the Ayrton times because it's too far away from where we are.
With practice starts now outlawed on race day, Patrese used Saturday qualifying to try his hand at a quick start. Going into the first corner on Sunday could be decisive.
If I can, I go into the lead of the first corner, trying to have a good start. That is the best thing I can do, because when I'm in front, I think I have a very good chance to stay in front. We will see.
Nigel Mansell claimed third, although he said it was difficult to find a clean part anywhere on the track. Prost was eventually fourth after problems on his second qualifying run.
And the engine was not working this afternoon. A bit disappointing because this morning was going quite well. It's a bit more frustrating because in race condition I saw that the car was perfect this morning, so it's going to be tough to stay behind and wait for the opportunity.
More disappointment for Gerhard Berger, only fifth. After Friday's provisional pole, it was a letdown. But Senna wasn't finished yet. 1:16.147. 1.2 seconds quicker than anyone else. Beware, genius in a race car at work. McLaren back on song, this impressive Saturday showing, proving that he'd be difficult to beat.
I'm much more confident in this weekend about our possibilities than I have been now for a long time. That doesn't mean that tomorrow is going to be an easy race. I think tomorrow is going to be a close fight with the Williams and the Ferraris. And all I can do is to try to make the best choices on the fine-tuning for the car for tomorrow's race. and have a good start, because here is important to be ahead on the first corner. I am in the best place on the grid. Hopefully I can make enough good start to maintain that position on the first corner.
In the cool of the Brabham motorhome after qualifying, there were mixed feelings. Martin Brundle finished 10th fastest, but Mark Blundell could only reach 20th on the grid, using the T car after that fire. But despite everything, the continued positive feeling was still very much in evidence.
I think 10th was an excellent result today, best result we've had so far this year. I thought we did a very good job. I mean, we're looking good. Full tanks, seeing them all warm up. 20, I thought 22 was a good race time. Yeah, 22. So I don't think we need to look any further than that, do you, tomorrow morning?
As the drivers debriefed, the mechanics were busily engaged in the garages, preparing the cars for the race. We'll be back with the story of the Hungarian Grand Prix here on Inside Track on Screen Sport. Race day was sunny and warm, and another huge crowd had shown up for the Grand Prix. They'd come to see Ayrton Senna start from pole position, the 57th of his career, but on this circuit, a very important one. Right next to him, Riccardo Patrese, joined by wife Susie on the grid. Nigel Mansell on the second row, concerned about preparations on his car. 10th on the grid, Martin Brundle, sent off with a kiss from wife Liz. Brundle's teammate Mark Blundell rested in the shade. Looking down the grid immediately before the start, Senna and Patrese on the front row. Immediately behind them, Mansell and Prost, with Berger and Alesi on row 3. Ivan Capelli in the first of the Leighton House cars on row 5 alongside Martin Brundle. Nelson Piquet in the first of the Benettons on row 6. And his teammate Roberto Moreno alongside Bertrand Gachot in the first of the Jordans, row 8. Two newcomers, Eric Comas and Mika Hakkinen, right at the back. Green light, great start by Senna, a good one too by Patrese. But Senna gradually narrowing down the amount of room available to Patrese, and he leads going into the first corner. Senna from Patrese, Mansell in third place. Further back in the pack, trouble for Modena and for Pirro. And a bit of a logjam coming round to the second turn. Modena picking the pace up well and tucking in behind JJ Leto. Early stages of the race, and Nigel Mansell looking at the inside of his teammate Riccardo Patrese. But so far, Ayrton Senna's first place unchallenged. McLaren, Williams and Williams occupying the first 3 places. Ferrari in the form of Alain Prost chasing along in 4th place. Prost followed by Gerhard Berger. Senna, that great start and the run down to the first corner giving him the advantage. Williams struggling to keep on terms. Gradually, the gap opening between first and second place. Even wider gap between third, Nigel Mansell, and fourth, Alain Prost. Gerhard Berger holding on to 5th. Patrese delegated to do the chasing by the Williams team. Mansell with that watching brief in 3rd. Over start and finish line, getting up to top speed before sweeping round into turn 1 yet again, around about 150 miles an hour. The two Williams running together, but Senna at this stage in control. Senna in first place, Patrese second, Mansell third. Then that gap between Mansell and 4th placed Alain Prost in the Ferrari, Gerhard Berger on the tail of Prost, and Alesi chasing after Berger in 6th place. In 7th place comes Ivan Capelli in the Leighton House, keeping up his good work of the weekend. 8th place, the first of the Brabhams, Martin Brundle at the wheel. The McLaren of Ayrton Senna running with soft D compounds on the right side of his car and the harder Cs on the left. Neither McLaren nor Williams running on all C compounds, expected to make a tyre stop during the 77-lap race. But one was certainly imminent for Emanuele Pirro in the Dallara, spinning out of control and onto the grass and losing 7 places in all, down to 16th place. This is Pierluigi Martini in the Minardi, an excursion over the country for him, and he too lost places, 15th down to 19th in the early stages. Up front, still Senna holding off Patrese, Mansell tucked in behind, and Prost starting to close in the Ferrari. Senna, having started the season so well, badly needed a good result in Hungary to regain the ground lost to Nigel Mansell. Mansell charging along behind his teammate Riccardo Patrese, but Patrese not ready to give ground. Mansell, meanwhile, convinced that he'd got the faster car and a little annoyed with his teammate. Mansell in third place and so close to Patrese that it really is very difficult to keep up this kind of pace this close behind the other race car. Coming off the wheels, all sorts of dust and rubber and flecks of oil thrown up onto the visor. Nigel Mansell determined to get past, but he'd have to do it quickly. Into the pits, the first pit stop of the race, Emanuele Pirro in the Dallara, the man who spun out onto the grass in the opening laps. Back up front, Ayrton Senna, Mansell and Patrese making short shrift of the back markers. Prost in fourth place, but now way back. On the narrow and twisty Hungary circuit, extremely difficult for anybody to pass. Ayrton Senna with the race under control. Williams determined to get on terms and hoping that the back markers might be able to play a part. First of the leading drivers to stop, Jean Alesi. Dissatisfied with the performance of his car, he changed from the soft C compound tyres onto the harder D. Back onto the racetrack, but he'd lost 6th place. That was nothing compared with the problems the Brabhams had to endure. This is Mark Blundell spinning at the chicane. Couldn't be in a more tricky position, and Comas just avoids him in the Ligier. Back up front, the pace picking up. Senna still in first place, and Patrese number 6 holding off Mansell number 5. McLaren from the two Williams, and Prost dropping further and further back in fourth place. There's the cause of Prost's problems, smoke from the rear of his car, leaving these three to fight it out up front. Prost limping into the pits with his sick Ferrari. Another disappointing race weekend for him. Senna, Patrese, Mansell. The race order remained unchanged. Senna still in control of the race. Mansell certainly could do something about it. Prost could do nothing. The Ferrari mechanics wheel him away. Disconsolately, Prost takes off his harness, climbs out of the car. Another race weekend, another disappointment. Prost tried his best to explain the problems.
It's a bit difficult because now we look for the performance. When we have the performance, we lose the reliability. We need to work a lot.
Hard work too, not just for Alain Prost, but down in the pits for Brabham. Martin Brundle arriving for New Pirellis. Good pit stop, decent time, but as soon as he exits the pit lane, Brundle on cold tyres links up with this midfield battle. Boutsen, Moreno and Martini all involved, and somehow Brundle holding off the hard-charging Moreno. The other Benetton of Nelson Piquet creeping into the pits, and the end for the man who won here twice in 1986 and 87. For the team, nothing seems to have gone right since designer John Barnard left. And nothing went right at Hungary for Emanuele Pirro in the Dallara. We wondered whether it was caused by that early spin?
Not really. I stopped because of an oil pressure problem, but something wasn't right in the car when I hit Modena, when Modena hit me at the start.
As you were up front, Senna still leading in the McLaren from Patrese in the first of the Williams, and Mansell right on the tail of his teammate. But the handling of Patrese's car looking more and more uncertain, and Mansell looking for the chance to break past and challenge for the lead with Senna. As they headed down the straight, it was Patrese who gave him his chance, pulling over to the side and allowing Mansell to challenge for the lead. Mansell up to second place, Patrese struggling in third. Senna opening up the gap at the head of the field. Replay of Patrese waving Mansell through on the inside before that first corner. Mansell acknowledging Patrese's sportsmanship. Into the pits, Ivan Capelli in the Leighton house, running strongly in fifth place, but in for new tyres and dropping back one spot. The best performance of the year so far by Leighton House and Ivan Capelli. Mansell charging hard all over the curbs, and Senna glancing in his mirrors, seeing the opportunity just to eke out a fraction of a second. Once more over start and finish line, and the McLaren proving that it had fabulous straight line speed, certainly equal of the Williams at Hungary. Riccardo Patrese, the veteran Italian, in third place, leaving the task of tackling Senna up to his teammate Nigel Mansell. As the race wore on and Senna dealt efficiently and smoothly with back markers, it became evident that Mansell might have to settle for second place. Brabham's troubled weekend continued. Number 7, Martin Brundle into the pits. Not this time for a routine tyre stop, but because the driver was suffering from cramp in the foot and could drive no further. On lap 63, 3 laps after Brundle, Mark Blundell suddenly found himself beached at the first corner. The end of a long, hot and disappointing weekend for Blundell. First season in Grand Prix racing, and like his team, he's yet to score a point. Senna, away up front, resisting the challenge still from Nigel Mansell. Red and white McLaren Honda over start and finish line, and now a significant difference between first and second. Mika Hakkinen in the Lotus between the McLaren and the Williams. Running further down the field, the Leighton house of Mauricio Gugelmin, followed by Stefano Modena in the Tyrrell. Then comes the second of the Williams cars, Riccardo Patrese, struggling with the Williams Renault that's now extremely difficult to handle. Senna, meanwhile, sweeps through the smoke left by the blown engine of Pierluigi Martini's Minardi. Martini taking his time about getting out of the vehicle, considering the state that it's in. The marshals with the right sense of urgency. Blown engines, obviously a problem area for Ferrari. That's a Ferrari engine in the back of that Minardi, and like Prost, it ended its day smoking badly. Martini out on lap 66. By lap 77, it was Ayrton Senna with a commanding lead over second place Nigel Mansell. Mansell, big red number 5 on the nose of the Williams, having settled for second place and finding too that his tyres had gone off and he was in no position to mount a challenge to Senna in the closing stages. Senna returning to form after opening up the season with that string of victories and taking that huge lead in the World Drivers' Championship. Since then, it was Williams who'd taken over in the quest for power in Formula One. Now, Hungary proved that McLaren were back on song. Senna taking it easily round the circuit, having led from the green light to the checkered flag. Coming round and back into sight of the grandstands, Senna having completed 77 laps in less than an hour and 50 minutes at an average of over 104 miles an hour. Senna delighted with his tyre choice that had looked risky early on but came good in the end, and delighted too that McLaren and Shell had found a way to finish a race without running out of fuel. Senna takes the checkered flag. Mansell second, Riccardo Patrese third. Ayrton Senna celebrates his 31st Grand Prix win, but Riccardo Patrese has words with him on the podium. He thought the Brazilian boxed him in at the start, weaving across Patrase's path, heading into that first corner. Nevertheless, Senna still the winner. We look at the final results. Nigel Mansell second, Patrese third, Gerhard Berger fourth, Jean Alesi fifth, and Ivan Capelli a very strong sixth. But the man of the hour, Ayrton Senna.
It's satisfying to win this weekend, to be on pole and lead the race and to win, of course. But I think for the championship is a totally open situation. We have a very tough championship between now and the end. I think it's going to be really difficult for us to maintain the leadership in the championship. I think Nigel and Riccardo are driving hard, driving well. They are also having a good package available to them. And they are tough to compete. We have to improve if we want really to compete with them in all kinds of circuits. But we'll try our best and see. But it's going to be an exciting championship.
Senna's now pulled 12 points clear in the drivers' standings after his 5th win of the season. Patrese isn't out of the race yet, but he'll need some luck if he wants to catch Senna. For the moment, the most serious contender for Senna's crown is Nigel Mansell.
I certainly didn't settle for second place until somewhere about 20 laps before the end, when I had a major problem with my brakes. The pedal was going to the floor. And then for the last 10 laps I had a very big vibration with the tyres, but I'm happy to finish with 6 points today because it was a very tough race. Ayrton deserved to win because he didn't make any mistakes and he drove his own pace and his own race. And you know, it was a very, very good one because in the beginning Riccardo was pushing very hard and Ayrton was going quick on the parts of the circuit that was necessary to stop anybody overtaking, and then driving conservative in the other parts. And it was a great race, good tactical race, and I'd say the race was won probably on the start.
A first and a fourth in Hungary pushed McLaren Honda back to the top of the constructors' standings. This despite a strong second and third by the Williams Renaults. And for Patrese, if he was upset by Senna's tactics at the start, he wasn't saying so.
Obviously, to get into the lead was very important, but you couldn't get by Ayrton at the start. Was that where the race was won, as Nigel said?
Well, mainly, yes. I think who was in the front had the possibility to control the race, and Ayrton went into the lead, and he had a much better view of the race, I should say. I think I had a fantastic car till the moment that my brake pedal started to go away, and then I had really to slow down because it was impossible to drive very quick and brake very late with the brake pedal that was going into the floor. Otherwise, I think I was charging till the end. You know, you never know, because if you push very hard, maybe everything can happen. Anyway, I'm quite satisfied. I have to say that now for me it's even harder for the championship, but I think that it was a nice race.
The Hungarian Grand Prix had the fewest retirements of any race this season. Prost and Pirot, as we saw, out with engine failure. The LaRousse Lola Hearts of Suzuki and Bernard also suffering. Nelson Piquet out on lap 38 with gearbox problems. The two Brabhams of Brundle and Blundell were unfortunate not to finish. Leto and Martini had engine problems. Not so for Ivan Capelli, scoring his first points of the season.
You must be very happy.
Yes, after 1 year not finishing a race, and the first that is finished
is scoring also 1 point. I think that is, and also in the probably the hardest race of the year, because today was very, very hot and very, very tough, the race between all the drivers. I think this is a very good move.
Perhaps the most relieved man in Hungary was McLaren team principal Ron Dennis. Back to winning ways, his team's confidence fully restored.
Swinging things round, you know, from uncompetitive to competitive is a real challenge. I mean, it's hard enough to stay there when you get there, but it's very difficult when you fall behind, especially mid-season, to sort of pull your socks up and get with the program. But as I said, I hope that our plan, our strategy is going to work. I hope that we're going to be strong in the last 4 races, and of course I know there's a lot of people are rooting for Nigel to become world champion, and I understand that, but of course our job is to win all the races and win the world championship. We're a British team, and as much as it may disappoint Ansel, it will most definitely please my mum.
10 rounds completed, and now it's on to Spa in Belgium for round 11 of the FIA Formula One World Championship. The 6.9 kilometre circuit nestled in the Ardennes forest always provides plenty of challenge for the drivers and plenty of excitement for the fans. A crucial race as Nigel Mansell chases championship leader Ayrton Senna. Join us then.
Inside Track is brought to you in association with Mobil 1 and Champion Spark Plugs.